Welcome back to Love and Other Motives. I hope you're doing well. So I just got done filming a video about books I'd like to leave in 2022. So you should definitely go check that out. But you're here now, so you might as well stay. So I recently went to the bookstore and believe it or not, I didn't buy any books. I'm very proud of myself. That rarely ever happens. But I definitely brought some books home in the memory, the old noggin up here. I just want to share some of the books that I saw, took pictures of, and that I'm really interested in reading. Let's get started. So the first book that I saw that I was like, I definitely want to take this home, and I almost bought it, was Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily R. Austen. It has a pretty good rating on Goodreads. It has a 3.8, 27,000 ratings. I'm just gonna read the synopsis. So Gilda, a 20-something lesbian, cannot stop ruminating about death. Desperate for relief from her panicky mind and alienated from her repressive family, she responds to a flyer for free therapy at a local Catholic church and finds herself being greeted by Father Jeff, who assumes she's there for a job interview. Too embarrassed to correct him, Gilda is abruptly hired to replace the recently deceased receptionist, Grace. In between trying to memorize the lines to Catholic Mass, hiding the fact that she has a new girlfriend, and erecting a dirty dish tower in her crumbling apartment, Gilda strikes up an email correspondence with Grace's old friend. She can't bear to ignore the kindly old woman who has been trying to reach her friend through the church inbox. But she also can't bring herself to break the bad news. Desperate, she begins impersonating Grace via email. But when the police discover suspicious circumstances surrounding Grace's death, Gilda may have to finally reveal the truth of her mortifying existence. Tell me you don't want to read that. Try and tell me. I won't believe you. It just sounds wonderful. I just really want to read it. Moving on. The next book on the list is What We See When We Read by Peter Mendelsohn. Don't know if I pronounced that right. Literally didn't move my mouth at all. I'm not going to read the description, but the reason that I wanted to pick this book up was because when you open it up, it kind of looks like the inside of House of Leaves. And if you don't know what House of Leaves looks like on the inside, one second. Got it. It's an entirely different genre than House of Leaves, but House of Leaves kind of has weird pages and like with one words and things like that. It's not a normal book. So basically I opened it up and I saw like all these weird pages, and I love books that are like written weirdly. Like you have to read it and the font's weird. And I think it's something about how we visualize like when we read and like different works of like literature. I'm not exactly sure, and if you know anything about me, you know that I like to go into books blind. So I don't know what it's about, but it just looks interesting, and it has a good rating on Goodreads. I don't go based off of ratings only, but it does have a good rating. The next book on the list is a book that I don't know if I'll ever read. I kind of want to, but I might actually end up listening to on audiobook because it doesn't really look like my genre. It's called The Overstory by Richard Powers. I think what happened was I was sitting there and I opened up to like the first page, or I read the synopsis or something, and it just looked really good. Like I really liked how it was written from like just a little page that I saw. Part of the synopsis is there's a world alongside ours, vast, slow, interconnected, resourceful, magnificently inventive, and almost invisible to us. Like that sentence alone made me want to read it. So it's definitely on the Goodreads list. The next book on the list was one that I was considering adding, and then I didn't end up adding it to my Goodreads until I saw a TikTok about it. It was a quote from the book, and it was like a little bit about the author's life. It's called The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'll put up a picture of the book I saw at the library or at the bookstore, and then the one that they have on Goodreads, because they're very different covers, but the one that I saw at the bookstore really caught my attention, which is why I picked it up in the first place. There was no synopsis, and I'm like still kind of refused to read the synopsis. There was no synopsis on the back of the book. So I just want to read it, and you may already know about it. You may want to Google it and find out yourself, but I'm gonna go, whenever I read this book, I'm going in blind for sure, because it had like a quote from the book, and it was magnificent. Like, I was like, I really need to read this. So yeah. The next book on the list is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. So I think the reason I picked up this book was because it says it's a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's classic, The Fall of the House of Usher. I love Edgar Allan Poe. Ever since we did a unit when I was in like, I don't know, high school, middle school, my teacher was very into Edgar Allan Poe. We did a whole big Halloween unit on him, and I was like, this is the genre for me. Not necessarily like Edgar Allan Poe, but thriller, mystery, kind of that unsettling genre. And Edgar Allan Poe just happens to be a part of that. So just a little bit more of the synopsis. When Alex Easton, a retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend Madeline Usher is dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers in the remote countryside of Ruritania. What they find there is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. That's where I'm going to stop there, but there is more to the synopsis. Instantly, when I read the synopsis, I thought of Mexican Gothic, which, if you haven't read and you want to read something similar to like that synopsis, read Mexican Gothic. And then I also thought of, the name slipped me. Oh, the reason it slipped me is because I've never read it, but Pet Sematary. Never read Pet Sematary, but it kind of sounds like how I feel Pet Sematary would be like. So yeah, that is in the cover. Like, the cover it speaks for itself. I want to read it solely based on the cover. Okay, another book on the list is called The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. The reason I originally had even looked at the book was the cover, and also I thought it was going to be similar to a Southerner's Book Club Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. But just a little bit of it is, in a peaceful retirement village, 4 unlikely friends meet up once a week to investigate unsolved murders. But when a brutal killing takes place on their very doorstep, the Thursday Murder Club find themselves in the middle of their first live case. That's all I'm gonna tell you. Okay, there are 2 more books I want to talk about. The first is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. You've probably already heard of it. It's pretty popular on like TikTok and things like that as like a dark academia book. So I'm not going to get that much into it. I think I first started wanting to read it when I saw it on TikTok, and then every time I go to the bookstore, I almost buy it, and then I say no. I say no. And I don't know why it's just this book that I keep saying no to, but I keep saying no. So it's on the list. Definitely want to read it at some point, but haven't gotten to it yet. The last and final book on this list that I have seriously considered buying on multiple occasions, and I am surprised that I haven't heard anybody talk about it much, is Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. Every single time I go to the bookstore, I see this book. Every single time I pick up the book, I hold it in my hand while I walk around the store, and then for some reason, by the time I get to the cashier, I put the book away. I don't know why. I want to read it so badly. Like, I almost just like got it on Audible the other day, but I want to read it with my eyes, with my own two eyes. So if you don't know, I'll read a little bit of the description. Well, let me say this first. I actually never have read the synopsis. The reason I wanted to read it is if you read like the first page, I can't even remember what it was, but whatever was in the first page of that book, I was like, I need to read this. So let me see if any of the synopsis is helpful because it is long and I don't know why it's so long. So Ocean's 11 meets The Farewell and Portrait of a Thief, a lush lyrical heist novel inspired by the true story of Chinese art vanishing from Western museums, about diaspora, the colonization of art, and the complexity of the Chinese American identity. History is told by the conquerors. Across the Western world, museums display the spoils of war, of conquest, of colonialism, priceless pieces of art looted from other countries kept even now. Will Chen plans to steal them back. That's about like that right there. That's my first time reading it and I got chills. Okay, I got chills. I have little goosebumps all over. I want to read this book so badly. I don't have anything else to say about it. Like, if that didn't draw you in, I don't know what it will. If you want to get updates about what's going on in between videos, you can definitely check out my Instagram. That's about all the social media I have right now. So yeah, all these books are on the list. These are books that I keep going to the back of the bookstore, picking up and then putting back down. Don't know why. But there's a right time for everything, I guess, and it just hasn't been the right time yet. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you soon.